So are we going to put all of it together? Are we going to are
We're
we
gonna do two
putting it all
episodes.
together? 2 episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So the end is gonna be a bit abrupt for the first one, but I'll do a little video at the end, and
Okay.
then we're starting from scratch today.
Okay.
Okay, Adam, thank you for being on the show for a second time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So today the focus will be on Meetup, and so you are quite the expert. I know you have 6 tips in the form of a PDF you give away to people. So can you tell us about your Meetup group and in Colorado, how you created that? What were your keys to success?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and for Meetup has really been a giant key to my overall business success. I would have never gotten to where I am today if I didn't start my Meetup. It really helped me grow a lot of credibility, especially in a new town. I don't tell everybody this, but it's kind of funny. When I started that Meetup group, I was brand new to Denver. Like I'd never lived in Denver, and I had just gotten here, and I had no friends in Denver yet, hardly any family besides my children, and so here I was, and somebody told me, I read this. Actually, I read it on somebody's Facebook post. There was there's a symbol. It basically said your network is your net worth, and that just like I've heard it before, but today or that day, as I was reading it, it was the first time that my heart hurt. I was reading this thing that said your network is your net worth, and like I just got anxiety and I got stress and I got scared because I realized that I don't have a network here. Nobody knows me in Denver. I'm brand new here. I'm originally from Utah. I lived in Florida for a few years, and then I went straight to Denver. And I got my gut sank. I said, how am I going to have a net worth if I don't have a network? And so I started trying to figure out how to do that. And Meetup, I had a family member who mentioned about Meetup.com. I'd never heard of it before this. And I was like, tell me how to do it. Is it a dating app? What is it? And they basically said, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do. You need to jump on there. And so I hopped on, and there was a challenge though, because with all of these meetups that were available, most of them met at 6 p.m. Most of them were meeting at like 5:30 or 6:30 or 7 at night. And that was tough for me. I have two young boys. They're in the room with me now. I've got 2 young boys, and the problem is that the kids, they are in school from like 8 until 3 or so, and then they come home. They're home by 4, and then we get crazy. Me being with the boys by ourselves. I have to get I got to get them food. I got to get them bathed. I got to get their teeth brushed. I got to read their books. All that stuff that's a lot of effort. And so these 6 p.m. meetups didn't seem to work. And so I had this bright idea. I just thought to myself, what if I just started my own lunch club? I doubt there would be too many people that would come, but if I really wanted to grow my network, hosting a meetup where people looked up and respected me, that was going to be my path to success. So I did it. I committed to hosting a meetup every single Thursday, every single week on Thursday, besides Thanksgiving. I committed to hosting one every week. And I remember thinking to myself, well, but Adam, what if it rains? Okay, you're still going to do it. Even if it rains and nobody else comes, you're still going to do it. I said, but Adam, what if even if it's sunny outside, but nobody shows up and nobody shows up for 3 weeks in a row? Then what are you going to do, Adam? And I said to myself, you know what? If that happens, if I show up 3 weeks in a row and I'm by myself, I'll keep consistent. I'll keep offering and telling people that I'm going to meet here. And I said, I'll just bring my laptop at worst, I can have a working lunch and I can write off my food since I'm sitting there working at lunch. And so I determined that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it at lunch. I'm going to do it once a week. And I said I'm going to do this for at least 1 year, which is kind of funny because I ended up starting that, and there was 6 people the first day. But what was interesting is I already told you I kind of wrestled with if I should be consistent with it or not. I was like wrestling with it. Well, I got a big challenge the first week because it snowed. It was a huge snowstorm. And I told you I just moved from Florida, and I had a Honda Pilot. I've got a Honda Pilot now, but back then I had a different Honda Pilot, which was front wheel drive. And because that's what they give you when you buy a Honda Pilot in Florida. Most people in Colorado, they are clueless that Honda would ever make such a thing. But most people in Florida might not even know that Honda makes a 4-wheel drive. But it was kind of funny. I brought this car, traveled across the country, and all of a sudden there's this big snowstorm. I'm from Utah originally, but I hadn't been in a snowstorm for over 4 years. And so with my front wheel bald Florida tires in the city of Denver, it happens to be, and you can look at an almanac if you want, because you'll see that on the second Thursday of November of 2016, we had a giant snowstorm. We had 10 inches all happen within from 6 a.m. until 11 when I was driving. It all dumped on us super duper fast. And I was having a hard time getting there. And I remember thinking, should I turn around? Should I like cancel this? I'm slipping everywhere. What if other people think this is dangerous? And I wanted to cancel it. And I thought I should cancel it. But I ended up just saying, no, I made a commitment. I said rain or shine. I know snow is a little worse than rain, but I made a commitment that I would just show up even if I was by myself. So I ended up showing up, and I'm glad that I did, because the first lesson that I want to share with your listener is how important staying consistent is, because there's a lot of people that canceled that day, and those members were already out and about, and they saw my group, and they decided to come and check it out because I hadn't canceled it. And what's amazing is that I've partnered with, some of them have lent private equity, private money, invested in my deals, invested in my fix and flips. I actually sold a fix and flip to one of them. I founded the Blue Spruce Holdings with one of them. I founded Blue Spruce Group. I founded a real estate agency. Most people don't know that because I sold my shares a year and a half ago. But I partnered with a lot of people in that group. And here's something that they saw in me. When all the other meetup organizers were quitting, I was the one who showed up that day, and I showed up the next Thursday, and I continued to show up during the winter, during the fall, during the spring, during the summer. And people started to say, this guy, when he starts something, he finishes it. And so he's the type of person that I want to partner with. If I'm going to lend private money to somebody, I want to lend it to him because he follows through with what he says he's going to do. So I think that's a huge lesson, is that consistency. But it doesn't stop there with the consistency. It doesn't stop with just your own members and what they think of you. Meetup headquarters, they flew me out in April of 2018. And I went up to the 6th floor of Meetup headquarters, and they bought me food, they bought my wine, they paid for my flight, they paid my hotel. And because they noticed that I was consistent, always showing up when I said I was going to show up. So it's kind of cool. Not only does it help your members, but Meetup's own meetup.com, they have an algorithm. And if you cancel your events, you show up lower on the totem pole. If you have regular events, you show up higher on the totem pole. So if you're starting and founding a meetup, that first lesson of consistency is going to be huge for you. So consistency, not only on just with other people, but Meetup's own algorithms will put you in front of more people because you're consistent. Another one was the 5-star ratings. I said I was one of the 6 speakers, a keynote speaker at Meetup HQ for this big event. They flew in 150 top organizers from around the whole world. And I went up to them and I said, why am I one of your speakers? Like, why would I be a speaker? Because I'm looking at some of these other people. I've got, at the time, I only had 1,300. Now I think I have 1,700, but I was like, I only have 1,300 members in this group. And I've met some people that this one lady, she is from India. She has one of the biggest meetups in the whole world. I think she had 40,000 members and I had 1,000. She had 40,000. And I was just like, why isn't she one of the speakers? Her meetup's way bigger than mine. And what's funny is that the meetup engineers on the 6th floor at Meetup, when we were sitting in around at a powwow, there was about a dozen of us. They said that her meetup is a great meetup, but there was something about my meetup where I had the more 5-star reviews than anybody in the world. And so I asked, how many 5-star reviews do I have? And they said I had 600 and something 5-star ratings. I was like, okay, well, how many total ratings do I have? And they said, all of your ratings are 5-star. You don't have any that aren't. And so I was like, how do you find this stuff? Where do you see this stuff? And they said, it's all internal. Nobody else can see it, but they showed me the numbers. And I was number 1 in the whole world on this 5-star ratings, which apparently is a huge thing for Meetup. And they hide it from you so no one else gets to know about it. And so I didn't realize this, but all of a sudden I asked, well, how many do other people have? And they might have had 10 or 3. Most meetups have like almost none. And I started to think back on why do I have so many 5-star ratings? And I realized, and I know why now. It's because at every single event, I would tell my members, all I would say is, members, you're going to get an email, or if you have the app on your phone, you're going to get a notification the next time you log into the app. And all it's going to ask you to do is rate and review this event. It was never about the meetup. It was about this event. It's going to ask you to rate and review this event. It's going to ask you if you thought that the location was good. It's going to ask you if you thought the content was good. It's going to ask you other things like that. All I want you to do is when you see that, I want you to just give an honest review, because I take it seriously, because I want to make sure that I'm providing the most amount of service to you. So all I asked for was an honest review. I never asked for a 5-star review, but I just said, you're going to see this. It's going to come in, and I want you to leave an honest review. And what was interesting is I believe that the psychology behind that, when you're saying, leave me an honest review because I want to help you, I want you to tell me what was good and what was bad so that I can fix it and make this meetup better for you. When I said that, people were like, yeah, I'll definitely let him know. And then when you actually get in, if I'm asking for an honest review, I think there's something in our psyche when we decide to give that review that makes us feel more impressed by that person. And so for some reason, I had 100% 5-star reviews out of 600 and something. So that was a big thing for Meetup into their algorithms that kind of helped me to be able to host the events. So the consistency was big. The ratings and reviews were big. Another trick that didn't come from the engineers at the 6th floor of Meetup, it came from just me and me going to a lot of different meetups before I founded mine. I was investing in Florida and Ohio at the time. I had lots of rentals in Ohio. I had a couple fix and flips in Ohio, in Florida, stuff like that. And so what I ended up doing Anderson, I need you to sit down. You're distracting me. You promised. I'm sorry. He's spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And I'm like, when is he going to stop? That's all I was thinking. When is he going to stop? He's making me dizzy. All right. So I had all these properties in Florida and Ohio. We were doing tax deeds, fix and flips, rentals in these two cities. And so every time I would go and visit, I had the ability, because my kids were being watched by a babysitter, they weren't with me. And I went to every single meetup they had in Broward County, Florida. Everything that they had. I would go there for 2 weeks. I would flip a property. I would go to every meetup, and then I would fly home, and I would take all those cards, and I would take all the notes while there. And here's what I remembered that I think is going to be valuable to the listener if they're going to start a meetup. One thing that I appreciated the most and made me, Adam Adams, go back more times to different meetups is if they gave me the opportunity to introduce myself. It sounds super, super simple, but I remembered when I went to a meetup and all they wanted was to sell me something, or when I went to a meetup and it was only about education, it was fine, but I didn't feel connected. But when I had a chance where Adam got to introduce himself, and Bob did, and Cheryl did, and Kim did, and Sarah did, and we all introduced ourselves, I was able to say to myself, everyone in this room knows what I do. If they want to work with me, it'd be very easy for them. And I would say also, I know what everyone in this room does. Which one said that they want to be a private lender? Which one said that they had a house for sale? Which one said that they were, etc. And so what I would do is I would say, well, I've got to talk to Sarah and Kim. At the end of this meeting, I don't need to worry about Bob. I don't need to worry about all these other people, but Sarah and Kim, they want to lend private money, or they've got a deal for me. So I've got to meet them. And I remember thinking how much more impactful and powerful and helpful it was when the leaders gave the attendees the opportunity to just introduce themselves. And so I remember thinking, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to always have something that I'm trying to put in front of everybody. I just want to have a community. All I want is to build a community, and I want other people to feel like they're part of the community. And so I realized something. I've got to just let everybody introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do. And I've learned something since then, that it's not just the extroverted people that want to introduce themselves. It's actually more the introverted person that wants to introduce themselves. Yeah, sure, they might be a little shy, but it's really funny because we wouldn't really think about that. But think now, that person who's introverted, that's afraid to go and just talk to people, that's timid, that's shy, that's in the corner, that's waiting for other people to come to them, but they don't look super inviting because they're nervous. They never get anywhere when they go to meetups because it's really hard for them to be able to communicate and talk, because they don't want to say anything. They don't want to go up and shake somebody's hand. They're afraid sometimes. So when you give them the opportunity, when you almost force them to say something about themselves, they feel like they got to know everybody else. They get to see who's extroverted, who's shy. They also get to talk about themselves all at once in front of everybody without having to go and start conversations awkwardly with everybody in the room. It's kind of interesting how powerful that is, not just for the extroverted person, but definitely for the introverted person. They all feel like they get a lot of value. So that I think that's a huge thing. Also, just not selling anything was something that I felt like really helped us. So the fourth lesson is not selling. Now, when I started, I didn't have anything to sell. I mean, I just wanted a network. I was a real estate investor, fairly new at real estate investing. I had done a few deals 2005, I did one. 2008, I did one. 2015, I did a few. Now it was 2016. And in my life, I had only done like a handful of deals. I didn't feel like I was trying to coach anyone or mentor anyone. I didn't have anything to sell. I didn't have, I wasn't a real estate agent. It was all about just connecting. And that's how I founded it. That's how I started it. And that's how I've decided to just maintain it. It's never to host it thinking, oh, all I want is coaching clients, or all I want is, et cetera, somebody to buy from me, for instance. So not selling, I believe, is one of the major things that brought people to me. And what's kind of cool is it brought different people to me, because there were some people that definitely wanted to buy. They definitely wanted to learn and grow and take lessons from other people. And maybe it was easy for them to get at a 6 p.m. thing. But for my group, it was hard for those newbies to come. So I ended up having more experienced people in my group, which this is a huge takeaway if your listener is taking that time to really pay attention. If your meetup has the intent of selling coaching or selling something to somebody new, if your meetup is better who you want to connect with is somebody who's brand new, the best time for you to meet is absolutely 6 p.m. But if you want to do what I wanted to do, which is just to network and become a leader among leaders, and not to sell anything, but just to connect and grow your network for your net worth, then the best way to do it is to meet at lunch, when only awesome people that have been doing this and crushing it for a long time. They're full time in this. They don't have a different job that they have to answer to. They can spend a couple of hours in the middle of the day without having any issues. So just two more things. One is, why did I meet at lunch? It's not just because of my kids. It's not just because I wanted top people, but it's the next part is that I was fulfilling a niche. So write that down. That's number 5 for the listener, is if you're going to if you're going to launch a podcast, or if you're going to have a meetup, or if you're going to write a book, you need to fulfill a new niche. Okay, so we want to talk about red ocean versus blue ocean. Okay, red ocean and blue ocean. Now, if you read Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets, one of the things that you'll get from that is that if you want to truly have a blue ocean, you cannot, quote, find a niche. You cannot find a niche. You have to create a niche. What I'm saying here is, if you find a niche, that's something someone's already made and created, and it's already bloody. It's already a red ocean. You've got to find something that no one's ever done. So like the Creative Real Estate Podcast, the first podcast to ever use the word creative and real estate in the same sentence, right? The Creative Real Estate Lunch Club, the first meetup group to ever meet at lunch, the first meetup group to ever use the word creative, the first meetup group that focused on being more of a club, a lunch club, not a lunch meetup. So I wanted to be different. I wanted to attract somebody completely different, and I was able to. So whoever you are or whatever you're trying to do, when you create your meetup, you need to make sure that you create a niche, a brand new blue ocean niche that nobody's ever touched. There's no shark infested waters. You're going into the blue ocean. So those are some of the takeaways that I think that would help. If the listener wants more like tips, I think I gave 4 or 5 different tips, but I can give you the top 6 tips if you text the word meetup to 555-888. One word, meetup, to 555-888. That's just a PDF like you mentioned in the beginning. It's completely free. You will get on my email list. That's the only thing. Now I'll be able to know that you want help with your meetup, and I might try to help you. So there you go.
Thank you. Do you still have your weekly meetup?
Yes. Yes and no, because we're talking while COVID is still a big thing. And so we don't meet in person. And I knew that I was going to go through the end of June virtually, but I didn't realize that in July we were going to have a second wave. And so right now I don't have any meetings at all, which is kind of interesting, only because I was waiting to plan them until we could meet in person again. And then I learned just about a week ago that we weren't going to be able to meet. And actually 2 days from now was going to be our first July meeting. So yeah, we do have the meetup. We have a couple of meetups. We have Denver Apartment Network. We have the Real Estate Lunch Club of Denver, and I'm a member of a couple of other meetups. We host a lot of events, but we haven't done a live event in July yet. And we haven't even done a virtual event in July yet either, just because of how the cookies crumbled, how the chips fell.
Okay. What's the typical format of your meetup? You've talked about the importance of people introducing themselves. So you go around the table, you get people to introduce themselves. Do you bring a speaker? Like, how do you bring value?
In the beginning, we were doing mastermind powwows, and we started with like 6 people, and then we slowly grew to 10 and 12, and I dreamed of having like 30 people, and we finally were getting up to where it was around 30 people, and I started to feel like this mastermind format was not sustainable. I was starting to feel like there was some people in my group that were awesome, and I wanted to put them in front of the other people so that they could kind of share their superpower. And so that did a couple of things for us. Number one, that got the members more vested in the meetup itself, in the group, because they were one of the speakers. And the second thing that it did was took some burden off of me, where I kind of had to run the mastermind, and I had to keep coming up with the ideas, and I had to be an expert at anything that we were going to talk about. I kind of had to be the expert at it, because what if I didn't have an expert in the room at that thing? And so I switched it a few months in, and when I switched it, it grew even more. I can't say exactly if that's the only reason why, but it started growing a lot. What I did is, and I think we might have talked about this the last time we were on a podcast call. We probably started talking a little bit about the podcasts, or about the meetups. So here's the structure. We get there at noon, and as I was trying to say last time, I would always let my members know that I would quote, the best time for you to connect with others is the 30 minutes before the meetup starts, between 11:30 and 12. That's when the best people are there. That's when the most serious people are there. That's when you get the most networking done. So that was my trick to get them to come a little bit early. So there's that. They would come in a little bit early. And so on our meetup, we had a better percentage of people that showed up before noon than we did showing up 15, 20, 30 minutes late, which is what I see, at least in Colorado. That's what I see at every other meetup, is that people show up 15 to 30 minutes late. And that always would stress me out. In the beginning, when people, like, it was already noon and I was the only one, I would just start to hyperventilate. There was 12 people, there was 15, there was 30 people that RSVP'd today, and no one's here. So I made a change. I added that in, and then now people were there on time. But it was funny, even back then when we started at noon and nobody showed up, by 12:15 we'd have a full house of 30 or 40 people. So it was fine, but I was always nervous. Like, a lot of people RSVP'd. So that's what we do. We try to network for the first half an hour, and then we try to start on time, right on time. I'm not a military person myself. Like I was not in the military, but when it comes to timeliness, you'll see that I'm very like structured. I got to start right on time or else it ruins the rest of the meeting. So we start at noon, and what we do is, like I said before, when I appreciated being able to go around the room and introduce myself, that's what we start with. The first thing is I give announcements. These are the things you need to know. This is what's going to happen next week at our meetup. This is what we did last week. This is, I'm looking for a speaker for this. And now it's time to introduce yourself. So, and what I would normally do is I would raise my hand. I would kind of put my hand up a little bit and I would say, raise your hand if you've done a deal besides your own single family house. Like if you've actually already done a real estate transaction as an investment, then I want to see a show of hands. So I did that because my meeting was at noon and almost everybody did it. And so I use that as a constant reminder to my members that the people here are serious. And then I would always point it out that when I would say, hey, when I went to one of these 6 p.m. events, I realized that over 70% of them had never done anything. And now 90% of you have. So it's almost completely flip-flopped. I love this group. And then I would say stuff like, that's why people keep coming to this group. I would talk about how we meet weekly instead of monthly. And that's why we have more people coming, because they understand that the psychology means that after 6 times or 15 times, that's when you're about to start doing deals. So come to this group. Within 6 weeks or a couple months, you're already doing deals with other people in the group. So that's what we would talk about. And then we would go into introducing ourselves. And then I might say something like, tell us where you were 5 years ago and where you are today, or tell us where you are today and where you will be in 5 years from now. Or what's your big goal, or what's your big aspiration, or what is your business and how can you help others in the group? So if there was a lot of people, I would try to shorten it so that they would be like 10 seconds. And if there was only 15, 20 people, then I would give them a minute or two. And that was plenty of time for us, because my presenter, which is the next part of your question, my presenter, I let them know that I want their presentation to be between 20 and 30 minutes. It sounds crazy because it's tough to do a presentation in 20, 30 minutes. But if you ask them to keep it short, they tend to be able to be more concise and give the biggest parts of the value right up front. And so that's just a trick. I say 20 to 30 minutes. They really double it. But what would happen if I told them that they had an hour? Then all of a sudden they go to 2 hours and I'm scratching my head. So we do all the intros. Now it's about 1 o'clock. We start the presentation. I introduce my speaker. The presenter goes for, even though I say 20 to 30 minutes, it's really about 40 minutes. They end, and then we have about 20 minutes to network. And that's all we would do. We would come in, introduce ourselves, do announcements, do the presenter, and then we would connect. And some people would leave early, but most people would stay late. Like, even though we said we were 12 to 2, we end by usually 1:30, 1:40. And then at 2 o'clock, people are still there. 2:30, people are still there networking. Of course, sometimes I would take off, but people really liked that networking. So that's really how we structured each of the events. We called it creative real estate. So we would do anything that I believed could be construed as creativity. So like investing with your IRA, we would have somebody teach how to do that. Private lending, we would have somebody teach how to protect yourself doing that. We'd talk about syndication and have somebody teach that, and somebody talk about lease options, subject twos, or have somebody talk about the scope of work when doing fix and flips. And if you don't mind, if I can give this one piece of value that I think is really going to help your listener, now that I'm thinking about it, when we would have like the scope of work for fix and flippers, what I would do is Other people, they only market and advertise just on Meetup. Like all they do is really just post it on Meetup. Some people take it a one step farther, and they basically post it on Meetup and send an email through Meetup. That's a step farther. What I would do is I would actually put it on Eventbrite and Facebook and Facebook events. Plus, I'd make posts about it. Plus, I would actually go to the ninja level, the next level. What I would call people one-on-one. So here's how it would work. I would call Kim and I would say, hey, Kim, I know that you're getting into fix and flipping, and I've got this speaker talking about scope of work. And if you don't make it here, you're going to have to go through what he went through for his first 400 fix and flips. You don't want to do that. If you come here on this event at this time, you'll be able to streamline that, and you won't have to worry about learning all this on your own. You'll be able to take his scope of work. So you got to come. You have to be there on this date. Kim's like, okay, no matter what. And I say, make sure you get your babysitter lined up. Make sure that you do whatever you need to do, because you got to be there. So I'd get serious about the event instead of just like, hey, you should try out my Meetup. It's like, this is why you have to come to this event. And I would call other people. Hey, I know you've done 300 fix and flips. This guy's done 400. He's got a scope of work that he can give you. I think that it will help you. You should be there. Or then I would go and talk to wholesalers. Okay. Now I've talked to the fix and flippers, and I've told all of the fix and flippers why they have to be there. Now I'm going to call the wholesalers, and I'm going to tell the wholesalers, hey, you have to be at this event because the actual fix and flippers are there. The actual fix and flippers are going to be there. The ones that are really going to buy the deals. So if you want to sell your deals faster and for better profit to people that are serious about this and can move, you've got to be there to network. So the scope of work didn't matter to the wholesalers, but the people that were already there mattered to the wholesalers. They were like sitting ducks for the wholesalers. And then I would call somebody who does rental properties. And I would say, there's a whole bunch of fix and flippers here, and there's a whole bunch of wholesalers coming. And if you want to get your rental properties at a good rate, and you want to be able to find good contractors for your rental properties, this is the group that you need to network with. You're going to be more successful because you come to this one event. And then I do the same thing with the brokers, real estate brokers. And I say, this is the type of caliber that I have coming to this event. You've got to come. And then I would call the lenders. This is the type of caliber you have to come. Then I call the, hard money lenders, all of those people. And I would just talk about the people that were going to be there and why they can't miss this one event. So that if your listener does start a Meetup and they can implement just that one strategy, that will help them a lot. So anyway,
Thank you. There is another strategy I've heard you mention in Michael Blank's show. It was about going on the list of other meetups and then right click on the picture, open 200 tabs, and then contacting every single one person, right?
Yes. So that's really good. So what we'll do is we'll do something like this. All right, I've got a Meetup, and I want a lot of people to come to my Meetup. So I go to other groups besides my own. My people already are getting my emails. My people are already they're already seeing the notification. I'm doing everything I can. I'm even private messaging my people. But if I want to grow the group and get in front of people that I don't know, here's how we do it. I go to the other Meetup groups because it's an easy transition. We already know that they like real estate, and we already know that they know what Meetup is. They're on Meetup. And so what we'll do is we'll go into a different group, and then we'll click on the members of that group. So there's a members button. And then there's a way to sift those members. So at the top right, you click a button that basically says, I want the most relevant, or I want the most recently joined, or I want the most recently visited. There's 3 different versions. I want the most relevant people, the people that came here the most recently, regardless of how long they've been members, or the people that barely joined this group. And so I usually pick the people that barely joined. What I'll do is exactly what you said. I will right click on their profile, and then I'll click the button that says open it in a new tab. And I literally will do that with about 200 people. I'll usually go for anywhere from 2 to 6 months, or anywhere from 50 to 200 people, just kind of depending on those combinations. And it gets better, because what you're going to do is you're going to send them private messages. Now, here's a big thing you need to know when sending private messages on meetup.com. If you're on Facebook, you can copy and paste messages for a little while before they catch you. If you're on LinkedIn, you can copy and paste messages for a little while before they catch you. On Meetup, they will not tolerate it. Every message must be unique. So what we do is getting weeded, but this is the gold for the listener who's really going to have a meetup. So what we do is we create 6 different versions of the same message, and we make some room for the unique things about that person. So first off, we have 6 different messages. Secondly, we have openings for the person's name and for the unique things about them. So it'll always say like, hi, first name, I noticed that you blank, and I wanted to see if you were going to be at that event on Thursday. Maybe we could talk there. Okay, that's all it says, is I wanted to see if you're going to be at that event on Thursday, ? Maybe we could talk there, ? You're not putting a link. This is super, super, super important. You're not giving them a link, that you're not spamming them. You're noticing something about them. Hi, James. I noticed that you're a member, you and I are members of 3 different groups, and that you've been wholesaling for 3 years. Okay. I would love to talk to you more about that. Are you going to be at the event on Thursday? Maybe we could talk there. And so what we would do is we would basically send all of that to individuals, and you're not going to get, not everybody's going to respond. Maybe only 10% of them will respond. 15% of them respond sometimes, but you're not going to get everybody to respond. But the ones that do, they don't feel like it's spam. It's not like, hey, there's an event, here's the link, because they just roll their eyes for that. But if you say, hey, James, I noticed that you and I are members of the same 3 groups, and you've been wholesaling for 3 years. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Are you going to be at the event on Thursday? Maybe we could talk there. So we send that out, and a lot of them are like, oh, I didn't know there was an event on Thursday. And you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be really cool. Want me to send you a link or anything? And they're like, yes, please. And you say, okay, here you go. So you never send a link until they say that they want the link. You don't just say, hey, there's an event, and they're like, oh, I didn't know about the event. And then you go, here's the link. You slow it down. You go, oh, you didn't know about it? I'd be happy to send you a link if you want, ? And then if they say, yes, please send it, then you say, this is super important. We talked a lot about psychology in the last one too. You must say, okay. The word okay. If you're like great or excited or awesome, then it's your agenda. But if you say, okay, here you go, then it's their agenda. And so if you're saying, I just want to talk about that thing with you, maybe we could connect on Thursday. And then they're like, I didn't know there was anything on Thursday. And you're like, there is, it's going to be awesome. Do you want me to send you the link? And they say, yes, please send the link. And you go, okay, here it is. And I'm excited to see you there. Remember that part too. Okay, here it is. Paste the link. And then you say something like, I'm excited to see you there. I'm excited to talk about your 3 years of wholesaling at that event. That does a couple of things. The word okay makes them feel like it was their idea to want to come to the event. And then after you say, I'll see you there, then they feel more committed to going to the event. So they're more likely to actually come. So yeah, marketing is my fun, my hot sauce, my sweet sauce, the stuff that I enjoy, the stuff that I like. But that's how I get butts in seats. That's how I get people to actually show up to Meetup, and then to get Meetup HQ to fly me out when they pay for my food and my wine. And I drink expensive wine. I love wine. And so on their dime, and they didn't even mind because I was one of 6 speakers. And it all comes from how I market. Remember that when you leave this podcast. Other people try to say that just the meetup is the most important part. And Adam Adams is telling you right now today that the marketing of the meetup is the important part. The marketing on social media is the important part. How you market your podcast, if you launch one, is the important part. It's the marketing. Nothing happens if you're not getting in front of the right people. So you got to be really careful how you do it.
Thank you, Adam. So away from Meetup, I was wondering, can you tell us about, I believe you had mentorship before you started investing in through syndications. So can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that? And I believe you offer mentorship today. So can you also tell us about this?
Absolutely. So I have, was a time in 2007, 2007, one of those years, I can't remember now, but I went to a Robert Kiyosaki event, and they talked us into increasing our credit lines. And then the next day they try to talk us into, if you can't afford it with cash, use your credit to buy this $40,000 or $50,000 package. And that left a huge bad taste in my mouth. I'll tell you that the truth is that when I went to that Robert Kiyosaki event in 2006 or 2007, I was already investing in real estate. My dad told me that Robert Kiyosaki was awesome. He's the one who made me play cash flow. My dad's the one who made me read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so I trusted this company. And then all of a sudden I felt like they wanted me to grow my credit cards just to make sure that I could buy their program. And they really twist your arm, and they really hard sell you. And I just started saying, no way. I'm not going to do anything mentorship. And when I started that meetup, I was against mentorship, to be honest. When I started the meetup, I was like, I'm not going to have a coaching program. I'm not going to help anyone coach. And I don't want anyone else to have to pay anyone, even if it was only like 15 grand. I don't want anyone paying 70. There's a lot of companies, it's 75,000, 100,000, 150,000. Got a friend who has a $150,000 course, and he has more than a dozen people that paid it just last year. That's millions of dollars, right? So I had a bad taste in my mouth. And then there was a time where I wanted to do tax deed investing. My dad was doing tax deed investing, and this program was $40,000. And I thought, man, that's a lot of money. And I kept thinking, but if I could streamline my success, if I could make more than $40,000, then this would just be a small investment. So what I ended up doing is I joined this tax deed investing coaching program for $39,000, $39,999, or $997, I think it was. But I joined this coaching program, and I did learn what I needed to learn, and it saved me hundreds of thousands of lost dollars. And not only that, but I was able to partner up with somebody that was also at that event. And his name's Steve. He wanted to put all the capital in. He had hundreds of thousands himself, liquid and available. And so we started with just 15 grand. We doubled our money in a few days. Then we did another one. We doubled that money in a few days. And then we did another one, and we almost doubled the money. And so that 40,000, not only did I save way more than that by not doing the wrong thing, but we made a significant amount more than the 40,000 cost us. And that was a lot of money to me. Later on, tax deeds are getting more challenging. They are very challenging today. I'm not recommending them. But multifamily sounded really good. And there was another mentor, $40,000. So we ended up deciding I want to streamline our success. On one acquisition fee, we can make 300,000. Just the day that we buy a property, we can make 300,000. So if these guys can teach us how to streamline that success, I think it's the right move. So we decided to do that. And then I paid, and then I started making more money after, like, I had more money. It was hard to get that first 39 and that second 39,000. It was difficult to do that. But then all of a sudden I had all this extra money because we were making big acquisition fees. I started investing passively in other people's deals as a passive investor. And I ended up hiring a couple of other mentors, Trevor McGregor and Sean McCloskey, one-on-one mentors where I do weekly or monthly calls with them, or we do quarterly mastermind meetings with them. And so I placed more money. I spent over $120,000 in 2019 just on coaches and mentors, and it helped me to make an extra $500,000. So it was money well spent. So as far as mentors, here's what I think the listener needs to take away. There's good and there's bad. Mostly good. But we still need to do our due diligence on our mentors. When we're going to hire someone, we still need to understand. The best way that I can suggest that you do your due diligence on mentors is looking up for ratings and reviews, as well as talking to people that know them. So if you ever wanted to hire me for anything, you would go and you would look to see if people are talking highly about me or negatively about me. Right. And I believe that right now I have a pretty stellar reputation. They'll all be speaking highly, but don't take my word for it. Ask the people that know who I am. Ask the people that have had me on their podcast. Ask the people that have been my coaching clients. That's how you get to know. The second thing that I want to share, besides just vetting the person by asking people and getting the ratings or views, the second thing that I want to share about if you're going to hire somebody is if you get along with them. If you have somebody who you think is, let's just say that you have humility, you're a good person, you want to grow conservatively, but you saw that there's one mentor was well known, but he was a pompous jerk, right? And you heard him on a podcast, or you heard her or him on a podcast, and they were very arrogant and it didn't resonate with you. Then you already know that even if they have a good reputation, they're not the fit for you because your personalities don't align. And if I'm too, a lot of people say that I'm soft spoken. A lot of people, like, they'll say, Adam, like, I never knew that you had $100 million of real estate because you're just so soft spoken. So they never would have guessed. And so if there's somebody who is very, like, aggressive and very, like, I need to make $1 million overnight or whatever, they would probably hear me on this podcast and they'd be like, oh, Adam's a good enough guy, but I don't think he can teach me, right? So you got to be able to resonate. So there might be somebody on that's listening who like has been listening to all this and is nodding their head, like they're literally nodding their head. They're like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I like how he said that. Oh, I like the way he phrases that. Oh, I like the kind of guy that he is. Oh, he's got his kids in with him while he's recording this or whatever, then that person's going to say, I get along with, I resonate with Adam. What Adam says resonates with me. That's the type of person that might hire me. So whoever you are, you're going to want to find somebody that you can connect with, because like I said before, most of the coaches, most of the mentors that are out there are good. I only know a few of them that are terrible, but most of them are good. Most of them have a good heart. Most of them are trying to help you. And so now you've just got to vet them and then understand if you resonate with them. Maybe like if you're thinking about hiring me, you might listen to a bunch of my podcasts first. Or if you're thinking about hiring somebody else that's been on this show, you might want to go and see what other type of content they have. And if you actually resonate with them, then you know that you've got to hire them. If you resonate with me, you know you've got to hire me. But what I do for coaching and mentoring, I have three different things. I help people get virtual assistants. So I think VAs are really important. So that's one thing that I can do. You can hire our company. We can do all of the back end. We vet the virtual assistant and then we place them for you. So you don't have to do any of the hard stuff, but you get the good stuff. The second thing that we do is I help people launch podcasts. The thing that's different from me than any other podcast person out there is that when we launch podcasts, we try to get you in the top 1% of iTunes because I want you to have traction. So there's you could launch a podcast, but if you're in the if you're in the bottom 99 percentile, then probably no one's ever going to hear it anyways. And so that's why I've done something a little bit different. I do the marketing that we've talked about, how to get you out in front of the right people. And if we do that, if we focus on how to get people into the top 1%, that's how we're going to make sure that they can end up becoming famous or well-known or being able to raise the amount of equity that they want if they're doing syndications, or they'll be able to sell their coaching program if they want, if they have a coaching program. But that's through first getting noticed. So that's what we do there. The only other thing that we can help with, I don't want to teach you how to do a syndication. There's other people that can do that, but I can help you just brand yourself over time, not just with the podcast, but with meetups or with your social media. So we do a really good job with social media. I wish we had more time to be able to get into all of that, but if you can focus on hacking the social media algorithms, you will win the game. Gary Vaynerchuk said, if you're not doing social media by 2021, you're going to fail. So any companies out there, he's working with people like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. He's working with people like that, and Tesla, and just bigger companies, Ford and General Mills, and you name it. He's working with those kinds of companies, the bigger companies. And he's even telling them, look, if you don't find a way to get onto social media by 2021, all of these other people that are doing it are going to pass you by. Same thing happens with some of my coaching clients. I'm working with a couple. Their last name is Sharma. Great people in the city of Texas. They've done lots and lots and lots of deals. But they're starting to see that even though they have more credibility than some podcasters, the passive investors are currently chasing after the podcasters. So the Sharmas are more likely to have to ask for money. And the podcasters are more likely to just have money being thrown at them. And so they're doing well. They raised $8 million over a weekend. They're doing phenomenally well. However, they feel like if they can get their brand out in front of more people, it'll make their life easier. And so that's what I do as a coach, as a mentor. I can either help you get a virtual assistant or launch a podcast, or just basically grow your brand and get out in front of more people using social media, meetups, and podcasts.
Thank you. So thank you for all this advice. Would you have a parting piece of advice for a newbie, somebody starting out?
Yes, absolutely. For most of the newbies, I want to express how important your brand is to you. Growing your brand, getting in front of people. Others, they teach you to ready, fire, aim. Just go and do something. Just start doing something. Something might work. And the problem is that you're always kind of swimming upstream. But if you grow your brand like I did through Meetup and podcast, if you, the listener who's brand new, grow your brand right away, then you're going to find that you'll end up better off. You'll go way farther in front of other people that are only thinking of of the business with some of the mechanics instead of a business like a business. And unfortunately, every business needs marketing and branding, or you're going to lose. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Tesla, they're brilliant at marketing and branding. Ford was a long time ago, and the company still tends to be. Elon Musk, the main thing that he's good at is his brand to raise money. And then all of the rest, he gets other people to do. So for the new person, I just want to stress how important that is.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much for those two beautiful interviews we've had together, and they were packed with information and actionable information. So I really appreciate it, Adam.
Thank you.